Hello everybody, welcome back to the Storytime channel. My name is Steven, and let's get into the stories of the day. Wearing combat boots during nursing school. Back when I was in nursing school, we were supposed to wear black, non-porous closed-toed footwear with non-skid soles for our clinical rotations that weren't Crocs. Most of my fellow female students wore classic nursing clogs like Dascos and Sanitas. I tried wearing clogs like this in the past and had rolled my ankles too many times to recall, so I decided to not go that route for shoes. I'm a military spouse, a vet myself, and have aforementioned pad ankles, so my footwear of choice was a pair of black leather tactical combat boots. As a show of support, and to make sure I always looked sharp at clinical. My hubby always shined up and edge dressed my boots every evening before clinical the next morning. The boots always looked professional, they were comfy as heck, I could bump my toes into beds without breaking a toe, and I could wear them all day without having back pain, foot pain, or rolling an ankle. The same could not be said for my classmates wearing more traditional shoes like clogs. During the first week of my first semester, I had an old school nurse as my clinical instructor. I say old school because she believed female nurses should still be wearing crisp white uniforms with the stupid starched hats and that our profession lost prestige when we transitioned to scrubs. This instructor got such a bee in her bonnet about my boots and decided that my boots were out of regulation that she threatened to take it up to the director and have me tossed from clinical, thus failing the program. There was nothing in the handbook specifically stating I couldn't wear my boots since it just stated footwear, which was black, well-maintained, non-skid, and non-porous. Check, 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 check. Furthermore, the pair of boots that I wore were meant to be worn by EMTs. So they were waterproof, bloodborne pathogen resistant, puncture proof, oil proof, non-skid, and had reinforced toes. They were just as expensive as Dansko clogs and could handle lots more abuse. I knew I was in the clear, and so I decided to keep on wearing them. The day after the instructor commented on the inappropriateness of my boots, she did a uniform/shoe inspection to make sure we were appropriately attired. I, of course, was wearing my nicely polished combat boots. She failed me for the day based on my boots, so I politely objected, stating that my boots fell within the definitions of acceptable footwear in the handbook. She literally marched me to the director's office like I was a kid caught stealing cookies and demanded I get tossed for the boots, failure to follow program rules, and disrespect because I objected to her failing me. The program director, upon further close reading of the program regulations, determined there was nothing that was wrong with the boots. They adhered to the standards set forth by the program, and that they were honestly safer than most of the shoes the other students were wearing because they were waterproof, puncture-proof, non-skid, and had reinforced toes. She rescinded my fail and allowed me back into the clinical. After that, I heard not a peep about my boots from any of the faculty the rest of my program. Fast forward to graduation. I had been wearing my combat boots since I started and had no intention of stopping, especially since many of the vets that I cared for during clinical always reacted positively to them. Our nursing pinning ceremony, the event where we receive our nursing school pins and are officially recognized as nurses, has an all-white dress code, white uniforms, starched white hats, white closed-toed footwear. The word footwear is key. The dress code did not state shoes specifically, and I knew this. Same witchy old bad nurse sees me in the hall and makes it a point to tell me that I'll have to get some real white nursing shoes to wear to pinning since I can't obviously wear my black combat boots because we needed to have white footwear. I politely smiled, nodded, said that I'd have white footwear, and went on my merry way. And then wore the all-white Doc Marten combat boots my infantry husband bought me as a graduation gift to pinning. The instructor stopped me after the ceremony and complimented me on actually getting nursing shoes, at which point I pulled up the leg of my white scrubs and showed her my boots. The look on her face was priceless. I think that old school is probably a good way to describe this lady. If you can think of any ridiculous shoe that fits the requirements here, what would you propose somebody wear to really get back at this old school nurse? Let me know in the comment section down below. No shirtless posters? Okay, fine. I was recently reminded of this story after rereading through a saga of my angsty teenage diaries. So, like most kids, my childhood bedroom walls were decorated with posters, celebrity pictures, my own photo collages, etc. My older brother's room had posters up too, but his were mostly of hot women. You get the idea. My dad had a collection of bikini calendars too, which he had hanging in his workspaces. The same ones were always displayed for as long as I could remember. Basically, sexy bikini posters were never unusual around our house. When I became a teenager, I started following in my dad/brother's footsteps with my own sexy posters. I started to rip pictures of shirtless hunks out of my monthly 17 magazines and pin them up. Pretty soon, the rules in our house started to change. One day, my dad said that I needed to take down all of the pictures of men in my room because they were inappropriate. I pointed out that my brother was allowed to have photos of topless women, so that was unfair. Dad reluctantly agreed and declared a new rule that no one could have topless photos anymore. Cue my brother clearing his walls obediently. But I wasn't giving up that easily. I got some colored paper, traced over each and every one of my many posters, and created a fitted t-shirt to stick over every topless dude in my room. The look on my dad's face when he came in to see all the well-clothed posters was priceless. With this alteration, my posters were all allowed to stay up. This went on for a little while, but eventually my mom pointed out that while this nonsense was all very amusing, Dad still had his own calendars around the house that brother could easily go look at if he wanted to. So it was actually still unfair for me. She asked if my dad was planning to get rid of his photos too with this new rule. By this point, my dad was exhausted with the ongoing poster debate and irritated with how his own rule had turned on him. He gave up the fight and stopped censoring what I put on my walls after that. I really thought when I read this title that it was going to go from topless to the other direction, and I really thought the story was going to go somewhere then. But honestly, I never really got the appeal of hanging up posters like that. Am I the weird one for that? I don't know. Start when I tell you. I used to work for a place that set up a stall outside of a touristy area. Every morning, me and one coworker would arrive by bus at 8:30 and begin setting up. The boss arrived a little before 9 with stuff to stock the stall. Now, we still had leftover stuff from the day before that my coworker and I would have set out and usually sold a good chunk of already. So it wasn't like we were twiddling our thumbs for half an hour, and setting up just the stall took a few minutes as well. The boss decided that one day he was sick of paying us to start at 8:30 when he thought we weren't doing any work, so he said that we were not to log any time before 9. The bus was an infrequent one that ran only once an hour, so to be on time, we still had to get there at 8:30. There was a little cafe nearby, and so my coworker and I would go there to grab breakfast and sit in front of where the stall usually went. The boss arrived closer to 8:45 the next day to see no stall set up and us just sitting there eating. He was visibly upset that we hadn't started working for free and asked why we weren't set up. He must have really been dumb because we aren't paid to start until 9. Wasn't something he had thought of. While he did all the work we would have done, he grumbled. By 9, he wasn't even done. He hadn't even unloaded the day's stuff from his truck. Most likely from all the time he wasted glaring at us because it really didn't take that long. Now, I love this job. My dad was actually the head boss and would have paid both of us the half-hour difference. We just wanted to make this guy's life a little more difficult. That would definitely upset me if we get there at 8:30, we wait around until 9, and then the boss glares at us because we weren't doing free work that he said he didn't want to pay us for. I think OP and their coworker was completely justified. Not sure if malicious enough, but my telemarketer story. For years after high school, I got calls from the extended warranty marketers. First on my Hyundai Accent until I scrapped it. Then on my dad's Honda Insight. Later on, my Volvo S70 and my Hyundai Elantra. So one day, I finally started to comply. Marketer says, "Hello, sir. This is about your offer to extend the warranty on your car." I say, "Yes, sir. Please proceed." "What is the make and model of your vehicle?" "Hyundai Elantra." "What year?" 2004. "How many miles on the vehicle?" 255,000 or so. Marketer hangs up. Been 5 years since they called me and haven't heard from them since. Not sure why he hung up. I think I've heard that it's a bad idea to say yes on the phone with telemarketers for a number of possible reasons, even though it sounds a little sketchy. But telling them that you have all these miles is a pretty good way to actually get them to go away. Cheeseburger without cheese? No problem. Another story I recently read triggered my memory about a little story of malicious compliance. When I was studying a long time ago, early 2000s, I worked at a fast food chain with the Golden Arches, which formerly employed a clown. Probably this was why it attracted clowns who thought it was funny and creative to do purposely false orders, like ordering competitors' brands or odd numbers of chicken nuggets. Yeah boy, really creative. Haven't heard this for 1,000 times yet. Anyways, my favorite was always the order of a cheeseburger without cheese. Everyone aware of the range of said restaurant chain knows that a cheeseburger without cheese is a plain hamburger. Otherwise, you know it now. There was a price difference between the two burgers of maybe 20 or 30 cents. So here comes the malicious compliance. The registers to that time had already been able to process individual requests like no cheese and transfer it directly to the kitchen staff. I don't think that the no cheese option was intended for simple cheeseburgers, but it worked. And it doesn't reduce the item price to the price of a plain hamburger. So every time a clown would order a cheeseburger without cheese, I would ring this up instead of the plain hamburger of desire. No other tiny retaliation ever felt so good. At least one time a clown evolved to a Karen and complained to the supervisor. However, after explaining what the customer ordered, he/she even confirmed this to the supervisor. My supervisor concludes that this was exactly done by textbook and nothing was done wrong. I quit anyway as soon as I got a better offer. You might jokingly want some lettuce, so you say you want a Big Mac but remove everything but the lettuce. Don't be surprised when they still charge you for the Big Mac. That's at least my take on it. Plus, the people who take the orders are not paid enough to have to put up with that kind of stuff. Bad orders are still orders. Bad orders that don't get you or others killed or in trouble are for ripe, malicious compliance. During basic training for the Air Force, we had a temporary assistant TI. Never call them the junior TI. We were going somewhere one day and we had just started marching out of our squadron. We came up on the exit and instead of ordering us to turn left, he called out, "Column right." So we turned right, which had us marching directly into a wall, where we stacked up like an old comedy movie, marching in place. The TI screamed at us, "What are you doing?" pointing at a random member of the flight. "Name, why did you do this?" "Sir, you called column right, sir." "No, I didn't," and continued to yell at us. At no point did he tell us to stop, break formation, and reform, pointing the way we had been going. So there we are, marching in place, getting yelled at. Finally, a senior TI from another flight comes up, tells our TI to stop yelling, takes command of us, halt, break, reform over there, and wait. He and the assistant TI walk away. That was the last we saw of that TI. Eventually, another TI came up to us, asked where we were going, and took command and got us there. Over dinner, we found out there were 2 other flights behind us, several TIs and the squadron senior NCO. The reason we were left for 5 minutes getting yelled at was because the TIs were all laughing too hard to properly fix the situation. The only reference our senior TI made to the event was to point to one of the members of the flight. "If I ever give a boneheaded marching command, you have permission to speak up with a big loud, 'Sir?' 'Sir, yes sir.'" The TI shouldn't have been too stubborn. If everybody in the squadron turned right to face the wall, then very clearly he must have made a mistake and he should have been able to understand that and reform the situation. But they didn't and they got yanked. But with that being said, that's all the stories we have for today. So what I want to know is, which of these stories was your personal favorite of the day and why? Let me know which story and why in the comments section down below. And thank you all so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel today. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and don't forget to turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video from the Storytime channel. Thank you all again so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.